dungeon, Senzai cast a fireball and attacked the wolves with it, but the wolves avoided it in time and leapt towards them to attack. Senzai told Chenzin that there were too many demon wolves and suggested that they should retreat. Chenzin blocked one of the wolf attacks and shouted for his group to retreat and cover his NZ, while she cast fireballs, but before they could retreat they heard a loud growl, and when they looked up they saw a huge wolf glaring at them. The other wolves surrounded them, pinning them in the center. Yun Kang fearfully told his team they were doomed, and Xiao Zhang asked his team if the huge wolf was the demon wolf leader of the second floor gatekeeper, and why it had come to the first floor. On the other hand, Wu was relaxedly digging into the ground. He was happy because the boss's room was right below him, but he stopped when he heard a loud growl from the first floor. He thought the four of them had good equipment and they should be fine, but he decided to take a look because he knew that the mission could wait, but it would be bad if Chenzin's group died. He remembered that he had almost caused their deaths. Once he quietly walked towards where the growl was coming from and saw that Chenzin's group was surrounded by wolves. He planned to help them by luring the demon wolf leader away, thinking they should be able to deal with the remaining armored demon wolves. Suddenly, a bright red light shone from them, making him wonder what it was. Chenzin revealed a weapon shimmering brightly, an artifact known as the Fire Lizard's Madness Flame Dagger. This level D artifact imbues the wielder with flames. Its effects boost defense, attack, and recovery rate by 50 and last for 60 minutes, but are only available to players below level 20. We recognize this as a rare item dropped by the underground dungeon boss, which would usually disappear after a single use. Xiao Zhang informed Chenzin that they had spent half a year's savings on it. Yun Kang pointed out that if others knew they'd used a D-level artifact in an E-level dungeon, they'd be mocked mercilessly. Shenzhen, however, retorted that they should wait until they had survived the ordeal to discuss it further. From a distance, Wu acknowledged that they didn't require his help. He knew that the D-level artifact could fetch at least 500,000 at the auction house, yet it was reserved for emergencies. Shenzhen's group was the first ever to employ a D-level artifact in an E-level dungeon. Checking the countdown of his mission, Wu noted there was only half an hour remaining. He needed to move swiftly. A minute later, he had finished digging the last underground passage and carefully descended, landing in the demon wolf dungeon boss room. He assessed his adversaries. The first monster, double-headed wolf Thors, was a level 20 demon wolf dungeon elite known for its extreme cruelty. It was an E-level creature with a special ability known as Tear. The second creature, the boss monster named Half Beastman Luca, was a level 25 with 2 HP. Once a half Beastman chieftain, Luca had become corrupted and assumed the role of the demon wolf dungeon boss as a D-rank entity. His weapon of choice was a large axe in an effort to make the exploration of this new fantasy world more exhilarating. Wu had sprinkled checkpoints in Easter eggs throughout the game. One significant Easter egg in the demon wolf dungeon allowed players to reach the boss room without engaging in combat following the usual route. Players would only reach the door of the boss room. However, Wu had dug a hole directly into the boss room to avoid waking the boss. He opened his inventory to find a roasted pig, combining it with sleeping mushrooms, potent sleeping pills, and alcohol. He fashioned a sleeping medicine. Roasted pig. Slowly and deliberately he approached the slumbering double-headed wolf with the doctored meal. He placed it near the wolf and hastily retreated. Awoken by Wu's movement, the wolf was taken aback by the sight of the roasted pig. One of its heads eagerly bit into the meal, causing the other head to grow angry and bite its counterpart. As the two heads bickered, Wu contemplated whether he should have brought 2 roasted pigs, silently praying that the noisy dispute wouldn't awaken the boss. He anticipated the imminent onset of the sleeping medicine's effects. After a few tense minutes, the double-headed wolf collapsed, indicating the sure sleeping medicine roasted pig had taken effect. Wu quietly approached Half Beastman Luca, knowing that despite its less potent physical power compared to the wolf, it maintained control through its D-level large axe and tornado dance skill. The weapon, named Half-Beastman's large axe, had an attack power range of 35 to 50. Its special ability was the tornado dance slash with a cooldown period of 30 minutes. This artifact, a treasured heirloom of the Beastman tribe, was meant to be owned by the Beastman chieftain. However, after becoming corrupt, Luca had stolen it and removed it from the tribe's domain. The weapon required a usage level of 25. Incredulous that he had set the requirement at level 25, Wu crept towards the axe, mumbling about wanting to punch himself. However, he froze as the boss stirred awake swiftly. He stashed the axe in his inventory. The boss prepares its fists, aiming for Wu, who managed to dodge. Still, the debris from the impact damage can buy 20 HP. Wary of the potent attack, Wu realized that a direct hit could have cost him half his HP. As the boss lunged again, Wu dodged and then sprinted away, pleading for a break to apply his buffs. He opened his inventory, consumed Lajong's spicy rabbit head to boost his speed by 5 for 5 minutes, then activated his Bunny Slayer title skill, increasing his berserk strength by 10 for 10 minutes. Brandishing 2 shovels, he turned to face the boss, declaring the chase over. As the angry boss approached, a notification popped up revealing only 14 minutes remained to complete the mission. Recognizing it was time for action, Wu prepared for the offensive. They were facing each other. While the double-headed wolf slept peacefully on the side, the creature lunged a fist to attack him, but he blocked it deftly with the head of his shovel. Ripping his shovel tightly, he slashed at the creature, dealing 15 points of damage. He quickly realized that the damage inflicted had no effect to defeat the monster. He would need to land 200 hits of the same magnitude for a team. This task wouldn't be difficult if there was a warrior who could absorb the boss's strikes and provoke it. The other members could continuously attack, but at that moment he was alone, and he had no time to provoke the boss. The beast picked up a large stone from the ground and hurled it at him. He couldn't dodge it. The stone was too fast. It hit him, and he suffered 60 points of damage. Leaning against the wall, he was surprised that the boss had a throwing skill. It seemed that the system had modified the beast. This was not the boss he was familiar with. The creature grabbed the chain of the double-headed wolf, making him wonder why it had stopped attacking him. Suddenly, Half-Beastman Luca slapped the wolf repeatedly, surprising him. He opened the interface, berating the boss for its cowardice. He was fighting it alone, yet it wanted to call its teammate for help. Looking at his remaining points, he knew he couldn't let it wake the double-headed wolf, but even if he invested all his remaining points into strength, it wouldn't help much. Still, he needed to survive, so he risked it all, putting his remaining stats into agility. He thought he might currently be the most agile level 10 player. He ran towards the boss, stabbing it with his 2 shovels, dealing 18 and 20 points of damage. The beast growled furiously, attacking him with its sharp claws. He definitely rolled into the air to dodge the attack, extinguishing the torches in the process. Landing, he told the panic-stricken boss that it had been a false attack. His original plan was to extinguish the torches, for in darkness his demon eyes gave him a significant advantage. Confused and wary, the boss felt the eyes behind it and immediately turned to block his attack from behind. Frustrated that it could still sense his attack, he spun in the air, shouting that the fight wasn't over yet. He slashed and stabbed its neck, dealing 130 points of damage by hitting its weak point. The beast's current HP dropped to 1 in 817 out of 2000. The creature punched back at him, but he disappeared swiftly as it looked around. A shovel was launched at it. He stabbed at its weak point, the kneecap, slowing it down. Seizing the opportunity, he stabbed at its other weak point, the eye, reducing its eyesight. He dealt 120 points of damage. He stepped back as the beast collapsed on the ground, thinking about how effective his stealth attacks were in the dark. He ran towards the creature to continue attacking, but it reached for the chain on the ground, swinging it in a fit of anger. Unfortunately, the chain struck him in the stomach, throwing him harshly to the ground. He took 75 points of damage, leaving him with a meager 100 out of 250 HP. Painfully, he opened his inventory, cursing in anger. He grabbed His medicine just as the creature attacked again, he ran the system warning him that the creature was adapting to. The dark he drank a mid-level healing potion set to recover 100 HP within 10 seconds once his recovery was complete. He stopped running and faced the beast ready to continue the attack. He leaped and struck its head with his shovel then. Continuously hit it in the face, shoulder, hand, and chin until its HP dropped to 650 out of 2000. Suddenly, a notification popped up in front of him stating that the HP of the Demon Wolf Dungeon's boss half-beastman Luca had fallen to a third, and it was entering Berserk mode. A few seconds later it entered Berserk mode and a notification popped up warning him that he was being locked on swiftly. It launched its fist in an attempt to punch him. He blocked the blow with his shovel. Unable to dodge, but his shovel was shattered, and the fist struck him directly in the stomach. Thrown back, he slammed into the wall hard, suffering 100 points of critical damage. Though badly injured, he understood that one more hit could potentially be fatal. Suddenly, it was on top of him, poised to deliver a killing blow, but he rolled aside in the nick of time. He then stood up and ran, taunting his foe by asserting that he too could enter Berserk mode. Opening the notification, he saw that he only had 4 minutes and 30 seconds to complete the mission, and his Berserk skill would be ready in another 12 seconds. Activating his trump card, he selected his Demon Race transformation skill as he was gradually enveloped and transformed into a demon form. His stats temporarily increased by 20%. The transformation lasted only 29 seconds, but during that time his energy overflowed, and he believed that in his demon form he might even be able to defeat a level 30 player alone. Beastman Luca, though in a berserk state, could still feel fear in its eyes. Wu had become monstrous, huge, and formidable. They picked up stones and hurled them continuously, but Wu merely walked calmly towards it. When a massive stone was about to hit him, he caught it with one hand and crushed it. He then asked Beastman Luca if it was prepared for the beating that was about to come. Leaping into the air, Wu closed the distance to Beastman Luca, teasingly telling it to taste his serious punch. He then punched it hard in the face and chin. Each punch inflicted damage ranging from 130 to 170. He was aware that his state granted him immense power, but the duration was extremely short, a mere 30 seconds. If he failed to defeat Boss Luca within this time, the tables could turn again, so he couldn't afford to let his foe recover. Meanwhile, on the first floor of the Demon Wolf Dungeon, Chen Xin and his group lay exhausted. Xiao Zhang expressed relief at their victory, while Gen Zia warned that her magic wand was on the brink of breaking. Suddenly, a loud growl surprised them. Xiao Zhang panicked, asking about the sound and whether there could be more problems. However, I surmised it was likely a monster fight happening below them. Chen Xin instructed his team to rest and stay alert. A minute later, they proceeded to the boss room, but a notification congratulated them for clearing the Demon Wolf Dungeon and eliminating the boss half-beastman. Luca, a puzzled Xiao Zhang, asked his team how they had cleared the dungeon so effortlessly. On the other hand, in the Demon Wolf Dungeon's boss room, Wu leveled up 3 times. The notification congratulated him for completing the Demon Profession Change mission. He was exhausted, but relieved it was over. He then opened his inventory to check the boss drops, noticing an item called Weird Necklace of unknown level, effect, and rarity level, but he inferred it was of high quality. He was pleased to see many magic crystals, but was surprised to find a perfect quality blue crystal. He knew the ranks of crystals were divided into 3 sections: normal, pure, and perfect. The D rank normal blue magic crystal had dim light and poor quality, while the D rank pure blue magic crystal was brighter and of higher quality. The D rank perfect blue magic crystal was even brighter, similar to a precious gem. Knowing its high value, he envisioned himself and Meg enjoying a lavish meal. Meng happily told him she loved her dad the most, making him really happy. He cited his broken shovels, realizing he needed to find a craftsman to make him a sturdy weapon. He was certain he had become accustomed to using a shovel holding the necklace from his inventory, he pondered why he was unable to appraise it, and whether the game had added the necklace. Suddenly he heard footsteps approaching the room where the double-headed wolf was sleeping peacefully. However, it stirred and raised its body, preparing to stand. He knew the game setting well. Once the stone door was pushed open, Thor's, the double-headed wolf, would awaken. Frustratingly, even a surefire sleeping potion wouldn't work on Thor's under these conditions. He muttered under his breath, cursing the designer who set up this system, but realized he needed to make a quick escape before the wolf noticed him. Swiftly, he leapt to a hanging rope, his exit strategy, and decided to let Shenzin's group handle Thor's as he had already eliminated the boss. Seconds later, the group opened the boss room door, puzzled to find the boss already defeated, even though they hadn't yet opened the stone door. Gens, I remarked on the mysterious and strange nature of the dungeon. Adding to their surprise, their shock deepened as they discovered the half-beastman Luke dead on the ground. Xiao Zhang speculated that the double-headed wolf could have betrayed and killed the boss. Upon hearing this, the wolf, enraged, attacked them. They exclaimed that the dungeon was not only strange, but also insane. Eventually, they managed to eliminate Thor's, the double-headed wolf. Xiao Zhang admitted to his team that their venture into the dungeon had yielded a negative profit. They have lost an artifact, obtained only a few E-rank magic crystals and some trash items, and didn't even secure a decent weapon. Suddenly, a notification appeared before Chen's Inn indicating that their clear time for the Demon Wolf dungeon was 58 minutes and 2 seconds, breaking the previous record. The system was set to globally announce this news, and it asked them if they wished to conceal their identity. They were momentarily speechless, but Chen's Inn chose not to hide their identities. The notification then inquired if they wanted to give their squad a cool name. Chenzia suggested Flame Lizard Squad. Shortly after, a global announcement congratulated the Flame Lizard Squad Shenzhen Kaizio Zhang Kiwi Jinzai for breaking the Demon Wolf dungeon's record with a clear time of 58 minutes and 2 seconds. Each team member received the Wolf Hunter title. Upon reading the announcement, other players were impressed. Even though they knew that the squad had used artifacts, they were still astounded by the short 58-minute completion time. Xiao Zhang told Shenzhen that their fame could secure them spots in some top guilds. The interface informed them that the Wolf Hunter title, which increased their attack power by 7%, was earned by clearing the Demon Wolf dungeon within an hour. They noticed Wahydrating on the first floor and speculated that he must have scored big in the dungeon. They noticed Wahydrating on the first floor and speculated that he must have scored big in the dungeon. They also spotted a few crystals on the ground. Xiao Zhang was annoyed, accusing Wu of digging for so long only to unearth so few. Who apologized, explaining that all his shovels had broken, but Xiao Zhang still berated him. He complained about their rotten luck dealing with an incompetent digger, and how the small number of magic crystals couldn't even cover the cost of the potions they used. Xiao Zhang reminded Wu that they had allowed him to get the title for free, so they claimed all the magic crystals and left him behind. However, I turned back, telling him to wait. She handed him a crystal as promised. He thanked her, asking her name and if she would be willing to exchange phone numbers. She introduced herself as Kiwi Zion, gave him her number. I advised him to leave the dungeon quickly as it was about to close, which he agreed with. Outside the dungeon, the players were puzzled as to why the squad hadn't exited yet. When the door slowly opened, a cheer erupted from the crowd. They swarmed the squad, extending guild invitations, attempting to buy a dungeon, clearing secrets, and offering to purchase any valuable items they might have obtained. Preferring solitude to crowded spaces, he slipped away unnoticed, leaving Chen Xin's group and the crowd at the dungeon gate behind. He found a quiet spot to stop. Confident that he wouldn't be disturbed, he opened the game interface, aware that he had completed the profession change mission, which meant he could now change professions. He knew that demon warriors were known for their strength and defense, with bodies as hard as stone that few weapons could damage. Demon hunters, on the other hand, had extremely high agility and attack power capable of converting all agility into attack power, terrifying their enemies. Lastly, demon warlocks were renowned for their powerful soul's expertise in various healing spells and ability to summon death spirits and skeletons. A powerful demon warlock could single-handedly take on an entire army. Being a Libra, he often struggled with decision-making. He understood that a demon warrior was essentially a tank. Demon hunter was akin to an offensive assassin, and a demon warlock was more of a summoner. He wished he could select all three and wondered if that was possible. The notification informed him that he could only choose one profession unless he obtained a hero certificate, which would allow an additional profession. He suspected that securing a hero certificate would require the goddess's help, but he decided against seeking her out for the time being, as he feared her wrath upon seeing him. He opted for the demon hunter, believing it was the most suitable for him, as it allowed him to convert all his agility to attack power when necessary. A bright light enveloped him as the notification confirmed his chain range of profession to demon hunter, indicating that his attributes had been altered. His current level was 13 with 120 experience points out of 38 needed for the next level. He held the titles of Rabbit Hunter and Wolf Hunter. His health points were 300 mana points, 150, and his strength and agility had increased by 28, physique by 14, wisdom by 12, sense by 13, with 3 undistributed attribute points remaining. He also obtained a new skill called Hunt Mark, which allowed the demon hunter to tag a target within the mark's duration. The hunter would be aware of the target's location, deal double damage to the monster, and discern its weak point upon attack. This ability could only mark one target at a time, but upon killing the marked target, the Hunt Mark skill's cooldown would reset. Failure to kill the target would trigger a 24-hour cooldown, and activating the skill required 50 mana points. He was thrilled to acquire the Hunt Mark skill, considering it exceptionally useful for solo duels. Meanwhile, that the Player Association Management Center Bing Young reported to Lei Q that the Goddess Martial Artist Guild was engaged in large-scale combat at the Skyline Trees Western battleground against Dark Elves. Tragically, 40 players had died. The Goddess Martial Artist went missing and the clan's co-leader was killed. The Goddess Martial Artist Guild is a unique profession. It is a battle-oriented guild. Under direct military jurisdiction, they typically abstain from dungeon raids, preferring to fight monsters on the front line. When Lakeview inquired about how widespread the knowledge of this incident was, Bingyun assured him that to prevent chaos and panic, the information had been contained. Lakeview's concern deepened when Bingyun informed him that the higher-ups wished for them to dispatch other player guilds to the front line to provide support. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of a city, a man was riding in a carriage passing through the Sky Tree Shield. As they crossed the barrier, his phone began to ring incessantly. Retrieving his phone, he noticed he had regained signal and saw a series of angry messages from Ma. She criticized him for his negligence as a guardian and informed him that Mang was ill and needed to be taken to the hospital later. At S City's Central Hospital, Ma was peeling an apple beside a sickly Meg who was resting on the bed. Woobers through the door, anxiously asking about Meng's condition. Mom, clutching the fruit knife tightly, admonished him to speak quietly as Meng had just fallen asleep. Ma questioned his whereabouts over the past 2 days, pointing out that he hadn't noticed Meng's high fever. Wu replied that he had been busy trying to earn money. Upon being asked about his success, he excitedly told Ma that he had indeed managed to earn some. He expressed his relief at finally being able to pay the rent, medical fees, water leak repairs, and the cost of the TV that Mang had damaged. Skeptically, Ma pointed out that as his landlord for many years, she had only seen him accrue losses and had never seen him make any money. Wu then produced the perfect blue crystals from his inventory and suggested that she sell them, believing it would suffice. Ma questioned if he had been to the dungeons, but Wu merely replied that he wanted to be a miner. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. A nurse asked which of them was a family member of Mang's Dr. Zhu had some information to share both Wu and responded simultaneously after a moment of speechless mutual surprise. Wu suggested that he should go. A few minutes later, he found himself in Dr. Zhu's office. The doctor solemnly advised him to brace himself before handing over Meng's diagnosis. Stunned, Wu read the diagnosis, revealing high levels of magic elements in Meng's body consistent with magic element syndrome. Once cancer was humanity's greatest health fear, now in the new era magic element syndrome had assumed that role ever since the game invaded Earth. The air had been composed not only of nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide, but also a new particle known as a magic element. Most people remained unaffected by the magic element, but some bodies absorbed it from the air, causing an accumulation of magic elements that had numerous negative effects. These included continuous high fever, excessive sleepiness, loss of appetite, and even the appearance of black dots. Dr. Zhu informed Wu that current medicine couldn't cure the syndrome, only protective treatment was possible. However, given Meng's body had 10 times more magic elements than the average patient, he feared even this may not be effective. Devastated, Wu sat on a bench. Clutching Meng's diagnosis, he understood that it was already a miracle that Meng was alive. However, he knew he couldn't surrender so easily. He decided to raid the burial ground, where there was a chance to find Lassos tears, an S-rank item that could cure all illnesses. Named after the goddess of light and hope from the stories, it was rumored that her tears could cure any ailment. Such a curative item could only be found in the burial ground, a place that represented death. The dungeon had a difficulty level of C, a level restriction of 10 to 30, and only a single party capacity. He understood they couldn't form a team and would have to tackle the dungeon solo. Most players wouldn't be able to clear the dungeon, but he was confident that he wasn't the weakling who could only defeat horned rabbits any longer. He returned to Meng's room, and Ma asked him with concern about the doctor's diagnosis and if Meng was all right. He explained it was just a normal fever, but the doctor said the money for the medical fees wasn't sufficient and thus he needed to pay more. Outrage, Ma argued that they had all already paid $3,000 that morning. She questioned whether they had exhausted their funds in less than a day. Ma reassured him that if money was tight, the rental fee could wait until after Meng had recovered. As Wu broke down in tears, he acknowledged Ma's kindness, yet Ma replied that if it weren't for Meng, she would have evicted him long ago. Chiding him, she tapped him on his back and mentioned that he was covered in dirt. She insisted he should not touch her and go clean up quickly, as she intended to take care of Meng for the night. He realized he was covered in dust and sand from digging holes in the demon wolf dungeon, where he had also battled the boss. Consequently, his entire body was battered and dirty. Acknowledging Ma's advice, he said he would take a bath first. However, Ma patiently told him to leave later. While showering, he realized that after joining the demon race, his body had changed. He had developed a potent urge to destroy things. Despite only being level 13, his attributes exceeded those of most level 20 players. Using the Hunt Mark skill, he could solo a D-ranked dungeon without worries. However, he knew soloing a C-ranked dungeon would be challenging, so he needed to enhance his overall combat ability. After his contemplation, he stepped outside. As city's Chang and Street was a bustling business district where players bought and sold weapons. As he strolled down the street, he heard a caged monster wailing. The seller was convincing a lady that the pet they were selling was exceptionally safe. Then he pushed a button while instructing the lady to do the same. The monster got electrocuted and collapsed in its cage, severely injured. The seller assured the lady that in addition to the electric collar, they had removed all of its fangs to prevent it from biting people. Satisfied, the lady agreed to make the purchase. He knew the earth was no longer what it used to be, yet humans remained the same. A minute later, he reached the magic crystal exchange store. Looking at the exchange rate of crystals, he noticed a drop. Other players expressed frustration too, but they understood that they had no option as more and more players raided dungeons. He opened his inventory and retrieved several crystals. The employee greeted him and explained that the current price for E-rank magic crystals was 455 and Drank Bank was 965. He then asked if he was sure he wanted to proceed with the exchange. Pausing, he told the employee he had another magic crystal. Upon showing it, he inquired about its worth. The employee was surprised to see it and carefully examined it. He was informed it was a D-rank perfect magic crystal. Suddenly, a man behind him lamented that it was only a D-rank perfect magic crystal, good for crafting only a D-rank weapon. The man added that half a year ago such a crystal would have been in high demand and worth more, with people clamoring to purchase it. The employee offered $10,000 for the crystal and asked his opinion. He agreed, stating it was not a problem. The employee thanked him for his business and assured him the payment would be transferred right away after deducting the tax. A total of $133,200 was deposited into his account. Later, he visited local's weapons store. He browsed around and noticed a Wind Frost's long sword priced at 55,000 and a water crystal dagger costing $95,000. He exited the shop, loudly criticizing it for lacking elite equipment. However, the reality was he simply couldn't afford it. While walking down the street, he spotted shining blades lying on the ground. He picked them up, recognizing them as Baldur's cursed swords with an attack power of 1e4-45. It was a B-rank weapon with no level restriction. It could inflict additional damage on death spirits and could absorb death souls to enhance the weapon's attack power up to a maximum of 20 stacks. A human wielding the weapon would lose 10 HP. The sword was originally the god of light Baldur's, created from a type of parasitic trees branches found around the divine land. After Baldur was betrayed by the gods, his weapon became cursed. Astounded by the three effects of the sword, he asked the seller about the price. The seller quoted $15,000. He argued that the weapon was not suitable for humans and questioned if the price wasn't too high, but the seller countered, stating it was a B-rank weapon and if he didn't want it, he was free to leave. He then pulled out a large axe from his inventory and asked the seller if he would consider a trade. The seller held the large sword and noted his tax was only drank. However, the seller agreed to the trade, admitting he had been trying to sell the sword for several days. As he walked away, the seller laughed at his perceived victory, thinking he had made a fantastic deal. Who knew, if the seller realized he wasn't human, he might have been shocked into unconsciousness. Still, the seller believed he had made a fortune and considered the axe a good trade. Later, he arrived at the hospital and found Mang and Ma asleep. He gently covered Ma with a blanket and walked to the nurse's station. He requested the nurse to upgrade room 27 to a VIP sickroom. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 2 in the comments section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.